Welcome to this clinical explainer. Look, if you're a clinician or a medical student, you are in exactly the right place today. We're going to distill the absolute latest 2024 updates on ASLD and MASH into high-yield, actionable protocols for your daily medical practice. The entire landscape of hepatology has just shifted massively, and we are going to break it all down step by step. Let's just put the sheer scale of this issue into perspective for a second. 25 to 30%. That is the staggering global prevalence of MASLD, or Metabolic Dysfunction-Associated Steatotic Liver Disease. Basically, what that means for you on the wards or in clinic is that 1 in every 3 or 4 patients sitting in your waiting room likely has this condition. It's something you will absolutely encounter every single day. Now, what makes that prevalence, honestly, a bit terrifying is how silent this hepatic menace really is. This condition is completely asymptomatic. 100% silent for most patients until irreversible, late-stage cirrhosis finally hits. For decades, we had very little to offer besides generic lifestyle advice. But thankfully, a major 2024 therapeutic breakthrough has completely flipped our management approach on its head.
Here is our clinical pathway for today's explainer. We'll cover the silent hepatic menace, the pathophysiology and disease spectrum, how staging drives clinical management, key pitfalls and mandatory referrals, the 3 treatment pillars, and wrap up with some high-yield exam pearls.
All right, Part 1, the silent hepatic menace. Severe MASLD doesn't just damage the liver. It actually has 3 lethal endpoints. Surprisingly, cardiovascular disease is the #1 killer here, which makes aggressive CVD risk stratification an absolute must. Following that, we see liver failure from MASH cirrhosis and a rapidly rising incidence of hepatocellular carcinoma. You see, this disease operates systemically, very often with a bidirectional worsening alongside type 2 diabetes and chronic kidney disease.
Moving right along to Part 2, pathophysiology and disease spectrum.
You know that classic 2-hit hypothesis we all learned? Well, scratch that. It's evolved into what we now call the multiple parallel hits model. Insulin resistance forms the absolute foundation, driving free fatty acids right into the liver. But it isn't acting alone. It's simultaneously compounded by oxidative stress causing lipotoxicity, gut dysbiosis, where a leaky gut triggers inflammation, and genetic variants that literally amplify fat accumulation. All of these hits are occurring in parallel to drive hepatic injury. And all of this cellular injury drives a very specific progression pipeline. We go from simple steatosis to MASH to bridging fibrosis and eventually hitting that F4 cirrhosis point of no return. But listen, here is a major clinical trap that is highly testable. 10 to 20% of MASH-driven hepatocellular carcinoma arises without any preceding cirrhosis at all. You absolutely cannot wait for the liver to become nodular before you initiate HCC surveillance. Let's get into Part 3, Staging Drives Clinical Management. You've got to memorize this 5-step golden rule for your practice. Step 1, screen all your metabolic patients with an ultrasound and LFTs. Step 2, calculate their FIB-4 score. Step 3, stage the fibrosis with a FibroScan if that FIB-4 comes back intermediate. Step 4, confirm with a biopsy, but only if the non-invasive tests are uncertain. And Step 5, treat them based on your staging. Now, when you do end up ordering that biopsy, you are going to be looking really closely at the NAS score. The pathologist calculates steatosis, lobular inflammation, and hepatocyte ballooning. A score of 5 or more definitively confirms NASH. This is critical today because a high NAS score combined with moderate fibrosis can specifically qualify your patient for those newly approved targeted therapies. So putting it all together, your diagnostic arsenal heavily relies on the FIB-4 blood formula for your initial risk stratification and the FibroScan for non-invasive staging. It is a total game changer. You really want to reserve the invasive liver biopsy, our gold standard, specifically for inconclusive cases or, like I just mentioned, for specific drug qualification.
Okay, Part 4, pitfalls and mandatory referrals.
Please avoid these 4 major clinical errors on the wards. Number 1, never assume a lack of symptoms means there's no disease. Number 2, remember that LFTs can be perfectly normal even in advanced F3 fibrosis, so do not let normal transaminases give you a false sense of security. Number 3, do not dismiss the condition as benign steatosis without properly staging it first. And number 4, stop prescribing unproven milk thistle or UDCA. They have 0 proven benefit in randomized controlled trials for NASH.
So, when do we call in the specialists? If you calculate a FIB-4 over 2.67, see an AST to ALT ratio flip to over 2, notice platelets drop under 150, or observe decompensation signs like new ascites or jaundice, you're looking at advanced portal hypertension. These are your massive red flags requiring urgent hepatology referral. Whatever you do not sit on these patients.
All right, part 5, the 3 treatment pillars. The whole foundation of treatment sits on pillars 1 and 2. Pillar 1 is all about lifestyle. We're targeting a 7 to 10% weight loss, adopting a Mediterranean diet, and frankly, even prescribing 2 to 3 cups of filtered coffee a day, which turns out to be uniquely hepatoprotective. Pillar 2 involves established pharmacotherapy, like pioglitazone or vitamin E for non-diabetic MASH. But Pillar 3, that introduces the massive 2024 breakthrough drug, Resmetirom.
Resmetirom is the very first and, right now, literally the only FDA-approved drug specifically for MASH, as of March 2024. It functions as a selective thyroid hormone receptor beta agonist, basically activating hepatic fat oxidation. It resolves MASH and improves fibrosis simultaneously. But here's the vital takeaway for your prescribing practice. Its strict indication is solely for moderate to advanced F2 and F3 fibrosis. It is absolutely not indicated for patients who have already progressed to F4 cirrhosis.
Finally, Part 6, High-Yield Exam Girls.
Definitely keep this differential diagnosis matrix burned into your memory, guys. The classic exam trap is the AST to ALT ratio. In MASLD, that AST to ALT ratio is almost always less than 1. But the moment that ratio flips to greater than 2, you need to strongly suspect alcoholic liver disease. You'll also see a disproportionately high GGT and an elevated MCV in your alcoholic patients, whereas those stay relatively normal in typical MASLD. Also, be super aware of what we call the Indian paradox. Believe it or not, a massive 10 to 25% of MASLD cases in certain populations present as lean MASLD. These are patients sitting right in front of you with a completely normal BMI, but they have severe metabolic disease. This is driven heavily by a specific genetic variant, the PNPL3 gene, combined with diets really high in refined carbohydrates and saturated fats that drive de novo lipogenesis. Do not let a normal BMI fool you.
One last crucial pharmacological warning for your multiple choice questions and your actual patients. Metformin, it's fantastic for controlling diabetes, but it has absolutely no direct histological benefit for the liver itself. Do not pick it as a MASH monotherapy. Also, if you see obeticholic acid or OCA as an option, remember it failed its 2023 trial and is not approved for MASH. I'll leave you with this powerful clinical mandate from today's explainer. Fat hides and fibrosis scars. This disease is a silent menace, just ticking away in the background. It is completely on us to aggressively screen our metabolically at-risk patients, calculate those FIB-4 scores, and act before the silence breaks. So how are you going to change your screening workflow tomorrow morning? Thanks for joining me on this explainer, and I'll catch you in the next one.